Good evening. Hello. Welcome to our second webinar. If you were looking for a slot earlier, we ran out of slot because there was a huge demand. Um, for this webinar, we will be doing a one-way audio from me to you, but you can communicate via the chat window and send some feedback so that we can uh, make sure that you are receiving us properly. So may I ask if you are receiving this audio well, kindly write a chat message and confirm. Okay. Do you also see the slides? All right. Thank you. All right. So today, this is the second telecast of our pilot webinar series. The intent of this webinar is to reach as many people as possible who are interested in pursuing bigger success in their lives as an entrepreneur. And this training is designed to also reach not only local but also international markets. So today our topic is seven habits of highly effective entrepreneurs. The first of our series of trainings. Okay. So okay. So first thing that we want to understand is that there are three domains in our lives, in our reality. The first is our past, where we come from. So this includes our past programming, our conditioning, our belief system, our fears and doubts, some pain, some insecurities as that were developed as we were growing up. And this past has created our present. So this is where we are right now, yung current na ano natin, consciousness, yung awareness, our decision making is the present. Now, the third domain is the future, and the future is where our imagination lies, where our desire, our dreams are for, our vision and our passion. So, in these three domains, the interesting part is that there is a relationship. And what is the relationship? If you notice that your present situation is similar to your past situation, then that is an indication that your present is largely influenced by your past. So what happens is that your present continues to become the present and your future is still looking like the present. And so the challenge is, how do you now migrate yourself from the past and the present that you're used to a new future of higher level of success in certain areas of your lives. And that is going to be the topic of our session this evening, how you can achieve a bigger success in your lives by having a more compelling future. So first, we need to understand what we want to happen in our lives, and being here in this session, we assume that you are a person who wants to be an entrepreneur. And being so, what is an entrepreneur? So, an entrepreneur is someone who takes the initiative to create something new for themselves. And at the same time, with that initiative is a certain risk that is different from employment because you are doing something on your own differently from being an employee working for an employer. So the question is, what kind of entrepreneur do you want to become? So at this point, we'd like to share with you certain success stories of entrepreneurs who have made dramatic changes in their present, the to convert that to a future that is almost unrecognizable compared to their past. So the first person that we like to talk about is a guy by the name of Jack Ma. So Jack Ma is a Chinese citizen. Okay, and being a Chinese citizen, he used to be a teacher. Okay, so the screen, we'll just fix the screen. Do you see the screen? Okay. So yan, nakita niya si Jack Ma. So, who is Jack Ma? Okay, let me share with you his story. Okay. Si Jack Ma is a Chinese citizen, and just to share with you his past. Okay, let me share with you his past. When he graduated around 1987, he was the only one out of 500 students assigned to teach at the university. And his income at that time was 100 to 120 RMB, is equivalent to 12 to $15 a month na salary. So $12 is around 600 pesos to 750 pesos. So if you are earning more than 750 pesos per month, your your past is better than Jack Ma. Okay? So he always had a dream that when he finished 5 years of working, he would join and start a business, either a hotel or whatever. He just wanted to do something. By 1992, the business environment started improving, so he applied for a lot of jobs, but nobody wanted him. He was turned down for even as a secretary position to the general manager of KFC. So, if you have a job that is higher than a secretary, then your past is better than Jack Ma. All right. So, in 1995, he was hired as an interpreter for a trade delegation going to the US. So he interpreted Mandarin to Chinese and English to Mandarin. Yeah. So and for the first time, a friend showed him the internet in the US. And what they found was that they searched the word beer on Yahoo and discovered that there was no data about China. So eventually, they decided to launch a website and registered the website as the China Pages. So he borrowed $2,000 to set up the company, and yet he knew nothing about personal computers or emails. He had never touched a keyboard before that. So walang alam sa business. And borrowed $2,000, around 100,000 pesos. So he used to call himself blind man riding on the back of a blind tiger. Well, they competed with China Telecom for about a year, and eventually the GM of China Telecom offered to invest $185,000 to do a joint venture. It was the most money he had ever seen in his life. But unfortunately, China Telecom got five board seats and he got two board seats. So everything they suggested, they were turned down. So it was like an elephant and an ant. So he resigned. Then he got an offer to come to Beijing and run a new government group to promote e-commerce. His dream was to set up his own e-commerce company. In 1999, he gathered 18 people in his apartment and spoke to them for 2 hours about his vision. and everyone put their money on the table, and that got us to $60,000 to start Alibaba. He wanted to have a global company, so he chose Alibaba. There were three reasons why they survived, because they had no money, no technology, and they had no plan. One thing that they did was they used every dollar carefully. That was his past, and at present, he is now worth $26 billion at 43 years old. So, if you are a person who is earning or has earned more than 750 pesos per month, your past is better than Jack Ma's past. But now his future is dramatically $26 billion. Hindi mo maubos yan in 10 generations. Now, he's not the only success story that we have. There's another success story. This guy, his name is Sylvester Stallone. So, sikat na sikat siya, pero most of us don't know what he had to go through in order to achieve his success. So, let's see how Sylvester Stallone started. Okay. Um, in the past, before he became popular, Stallone was a struggling actor. In fact, struggling actor, they are only paid talent fees, no? So at some point of his career, he got so broke that he stole his wife's jewelry and sold it. Eventually, things got so bad that he even ended up homeless. Yes, he slept at the New York bus station for 3 days. So kung ikaw meron kang natutulugan na bahay, you're much better off. Unable to pay rent or afford food, his lowest point came when he tried to sell his dog at a liquor store to any stranger. He didn't have money to feed the dog anymore. So he sold his dog for $25 only. He says he walked away crying. 2 weeks later, he saw a boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Chuck Wepner, and that match gave him the inspiration to write the script for the famous movie Rocky. He wrote the script for 20 hours. He tried to sell it and got an offer for $125,000 for the script. But he had just one request. He wanted to star in the movie. He wanted to be the main actor, Rocky himself. But the studio said no. They wanted a real star. They said he looked funny and talked funny. He left with his script. A few weeks later, the studio offered him $250,000 for the script. He still refused. They even offered $350,000. He still refused. They wanted his movie but not him. He said no. He had to be in that movie. After a while, the studio agreed and gave him $35,000 for the script and let him star in it. The rest is history. The movie won Best Picture, Best Directing, and Best Film Editing at the prestigious Oscar Awards. He was even nominated for Best Actor. The movie Rocky was even inducted to the American National Film Registry as the greatest movies ever. And today, the same Stallone, who slept in the streets and sold his dog just because he couldn't even feed it anymore, is one of the greatest movie stars who ever walked the earth. So, if you have a bed and you have a job, you're much better off than Rocky Stallone, Sylvester Stallone. This next story is a guy that we know because we eat in his restaurant. His name is Colonel Sanders. So siya yung set up ng KFC. So what happened? Colonel Sanders grew up in Indiana, and his mother worked, but being a single mom to support the family because the father died early, he had to be the caretaker at home. So he developed his cooking skills because He needed to help his mother take care of the brothers and sisters. Several different jobs later, Sanders began his entrepreneurial career running a service station in Kentucky while serving his special chicken in a dining area within. As business grew, he relocated to a restaurant close by in order to make his original recipe with its blend of 11 herbs and spices accessible to even more customers. He also added a motel to the business. In 1935, at 45 years old, Sanders was dubbed Kentucky Colonel by the governor in recognition for his fabulous cooking skills. By 1940, Sanders created his own well-known recipe. Colonel Sanders' new cooking technique originally prepares his chicken in an iron skillet. Okay, Sanders modified his cooking procedure by making use of a pressure fryer. Um, However, in the early 1950s, a new interstate was in the works that would cause a great loss in business. Anong nangyari? Nagkaroon ng ibang road na hindi na dinadaanan yung restaurant niya. So it created loss in business, forcing Sanders to retire and sell his restaurant. However, the government check was small and Sanders wasn't willing to just sit still and try to make do. He believed there was an opportunity to market his chicken to restaurant owners across the US. In his travels, he was rejected on many occasions, laughed at about his attire of his starched white shirt and white pants. However, Sanders persevered, and after a little over 1,000 visits, he finally persuaded Pete Harman of South Salt Lake, Utah, to partner with him. They launched the first Kentucky Fried Chicken site in 1952. In the early 1960s, there were over 600 franchise locations in the US and Canada selling the chicken. And subsequently, Sanders sold the franchising operation for $2 million. The franchise has been sold three other times since then and continues to be a well-known successful business. So, nalugi sa negosyo and yet successful again. Now, locally, we also have an inspiring story. His name is John Go Hong Wei. So, what is the story of John Go Hong Wei? So, most of us, we have heard of John Go Hong Wei being the owner of URC, Robinson's Bank. And today, we're going to talk about his history. Okay. Natin history ni John Go Hong Wei. So, John Go Hong Wei actually grew up in Cebu. So, si John Go Hong Wei was actually a very privileged son to a lang, hanapin lang natin yung page ni John Go Hong Wei para kompleto. So, John Go Hong Wei was a son to a Cebuano businessman. Was immensely successful in business. They owned the first theaters in Cebu and the first air-conditioned theaters in Cebu. So, hatid sundo siya to school. So, he had a driver, he had a maid, and good allowance. Unfortunately, by 13 years old, his father died because of complications of typhoid. And when his father died, a lot of their properties were actually on credit. So at 13 years old, he lost everything. And his siblings were, um, how do you call this, sent to. So his father empire was built on credit. So when he died, they lost everything, their big house, their cars, their business to the banks. He felt angry for taking away his father and everything he enjoyed. And ang problema, when the free movies that he gave to his friends disappeared, also half of his friends disappeared. One day, on the first day, he had to walk 2 miles to school for the very first time. He cried to his mother, a widow at 32, but she said, You should feel lucky. Some people have no shoes to walk to school. What can you do? Your father died with 10 centavos in his pockets. So his mother sent siblings to China where living standards were lower. She and John Gokongwei stayed in Cebu to work and sent them money regularly. His mother sold her jewelry, and when that ran out, they sold roasted peanuts in the backyard of a much smaller home. When that wasn't enough, they opened a small stall in a palenque and chose one palenque outside of the city to sell because there were fewer goods available for the people there. He woke up at 5 o'clock every morning for the long bicycle ride to the palenque with his basket of goods. He set up a table about 3 feet by 2 feet in size, laid out his goods, and sold the entire day. He was surrounded by other vendors, all of them much older. Many of them could have been his grandparents, and they knew the ways of the palenque more than him. But being young had its advantages. He did not tire as easily, and he moved more quickly, and he was more aggressive. After each day, he would make 20 pesos in profit. There was enough to feed his siblings in China and still enough to pour back into business. The pesos I made in the palenque were the pesos that went into building the businesses he has today. So today, John Gokongwei is a tycoon in the Philippines, and he owns JG Summit, Robinson's Mall, and Universal Robina Corporation. So he owns Cebu Pacific, Robinson's Bank. Okay. And so why do we share these stories? These are stories of people who had pasts that would be much, much worse than most of us are dealing with. And yet they were able to create a future more powerful than, more successful than most of what we have right now. So here's our question. Do we really want to be successful in entrepreneurship? So at this point, we need to ask ourselves, why do you want to be a successful entrepreneur? Do you want financial independence? What is financial independence? You don't have to rely on a boss, an employer to earn the money. Is it for personal growth? Because in your job, you're no longer growing. Is it time freedom? Ito, pinaka-interesting, graduation from financial worries, which means there will be a point in your life soon that you don't have to worry about money anymore for the rest of your life. Versus worrying about money until the day you die. Travel, family time, serving the community or the church or your health. What are your reasons? Now, this is a representation of the future that you want. Because unless you are clear why you want to be successful, uh, then success will be difficult to achieve. So nga, kung alam mo na why you want to be successful, the question now therefore is, how do I become a successful entrepreneur? How do you become a successful entrepreneur? So today we're going to talk about the habits of highly effective entrepreneurs. Um, and this series will be about that. So if you haven't read that book, it's a book that was written by Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey is an American author, and what he did was that he studied successful people in his time, which was during the 80s. So iba-ibang tao yung in-interview niya with different backgrounds, but all of them were successful. And what he found was that even if these people did not know each other, came from different families, came from different industries, came from different businesses, he observed that all of them shared the same habits. So because of that, he wrote this. He summarized all of that into this book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Since then, this book has sold over 25 million copies, and has been converted to a professional training that for you to attend, you need to invest 50,000 pesos and 3 days. So, okay, we will discuss how to understand better these habits of highly effective people so we can apply it to our business. Before we talk about that, however, we need to talk about certain concepts for us to understand better the seven habits. The first concept is called a paradigm. What is a paradigm? Okay, a paradigm is the way an individual perceives, understands, and interprets the surrounding world. So, an easy way to explain paradigms is to see them as maps. Maps or other representations are never complete. They lack dimension, totality, and accuracy. Similarly, paradigms are never complete. Individuals never fully understand another's frame of reference. And so, what is an example of a paradigm? Uh, Let me share that through a story. There was a situation in a subway in the US that a passenger came into a semi-filled bus or train coach, and there were around 20 passengers, and there was a specific group of passengers that caught his attention. And this was a group of a family of one father and two children. And what he saw was that there were two children, very noisy and very unruly, and to the point that they were disturbing other passengers. And you could see that the other passengers were obviously upset with these two children. And to make matters worse, he was looking at the dad, and the dad was just staring blankly outside of the window, seemingly indifferent to the situation. So, what happened? This guy was thinking, how can this guy be such an irresponsible father, allowing his children to be running around, being at risk for hurt and misbehavior? Second, in his paradigm, this guy is also very inconsiderate to the other passengers. So his feeling towards this guy is one of animosity and anger. When he couldn't take it anymore, he approached the guy and asked, "Excuse me, sir, are these your children?" Because they've been running around and very unruly, and they have been disturbing the other passengers. The dad replies, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize that. You see, we just came from the hospital and we're on our way home. And the kids just lost their mother because of a tragic accident. And to be honest with you, I am still in shock and I really don't know what to do. And the children, I don't know, this is their way of coping with their loss. Um, my apologies, sir, but it's something that is really a sensitive time for us right now as a family." So, with that interpretation and understanding, suddenly this passenger shifts his paradigm and shifts his behavior from one of animosity to now one of compassion and consideration. So, what happened? His paradigm previously influenced his interpretation and his behavior, and he encountered what we call a paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift changed his interpretation and changed his behavior. So, what do we want to happen? A lot of us, most of the time, we work and try hard to be successful in our business or in our lives. But what we observe is that it's kind of hard to change our behavior and our attitude. But if we want to have significant changes, first we must change our paradigms. Every significant breakthrough in science is a first break with old ways of thinking or old paradigms. This is called a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift. So for us to successfully change, okay, a paradigm shift is a change in thinking that comes when we gain additional insight and understanding. Effective individuals create opportunities for paradigm shifts. They try to understand others' paradigms emphatically, and they open their mind and let others freely express themselves. So the question is this: what are your current paradigms? What are your current paradigms, and how have these affected your behavior? So at this point, I'd like to invite you to grab a pen and a paper or your laptop or your iPad or your cell phone. And, as you reflect on these questions, um, you can note down your responses. So first, what paradigm do you have about your success or the success that you want? Do you believe it is realistic or impossible? Do you believe that you deserve big success or just mediocre success? How about your happiness? What is your paradigm? How do you view your happiness? Do you view your happiness as something that is still possible? Or do you view your happiness as something that is only meant when watching a good movie and after that going back to reality? Do you have a paradigm that your life must be happy? Or do you have a paradigm that your life must be getting by? What are your paradigms about opportunities when they are in front of you? Is your paradigm next time na lang? Or is your paradigm I'd like to take every opportunity that is available? What is your paradigm towards your spouse? How does that affect your behavior towards them and your relationship towards them? What is your paradigm about yourself? Do you see yourself as successful? Do you believe in yourself? What is your paradigm about other people? Are they kind, generous, loving, understanding? Or do you see other people as judgmental, selfish? How has this paradigm affected your behavior towards them? What is your paradigm about rich people? Is it you want to emulate them? Or is it they are evil? What is your paradigm about entrepreneurship? Is it easy or is it hard? Is it short term or long term? Should it be immediate gratification or should it be delayed gratification? Is it something that you are meant to do or is it something that you are not meant to do? These paradigms affect how you behave and therefore your performance and therefore your results. So we will take 2 minutes now to give everyone opportunity to reflect on these your current paradigms, and yeah, you can also take some notes on your reflection. So we'll have a 2 minutes of silence. Okay, so we're back. Now, the next concept that we'd like to talk about is a concept called the social mirror. The social mirror is a metaphor about the way we see ourselves because other people's reflect their perceptions, opinions, and paradigms about us through their words and behaviors. So, based on how people perceive us, it somehow forms images and judgments of ourselves that put a certain identity to ourselves. Now, when since the information we obtain from the social mirror is based on what other people think about us, it can be inaccurate or wrong. Why? Because in that sense, what we see as our potential can actually be a more correct picture of our abilities and character than what other people see in the social mirror. So I like to give examples of this. The first is when I was in high school, third year high school. I was a part of the track and field team. And I was there because a friend invited me, and I just wanted to join him and do some training, but, very token participation. At that time, I didn't see myself yet as a leader. And in fact, from a level of 1 to 10, maybe ang leadership level ko is around 6. But on the fourth year of high school, when there was a votation for team captain, I was surprised because the coach uh, assigned me team captain for the entire team. So for the first time in my life, I am assigned. I was even not even a beadle at that time in my class. So for the first time in my life, I am given a perception by another person that I am not a normal uh, student. I can be a student leader. And so, because I was a team captain, I had to play the role. And playing the role, I stepped up and performed. So, that was my social mirror. Now, what happened also in school in third year college in statistics, one of our professors in one class. and that was a class of very intelligent people from high school, BMH. So our teacher Rudy Ang was teaching statistics, but he had to leave for a meeting during the class. And of all the people that he assigned me to give the lecture. So what happens? He normally gets the book reading ahead, then he does the lecture. But for this book reading, he didn't give the lecture. He assigned me to give the lecture instead of anyone else in the room who was, in my mind, smarter than me. So the perception of my teacher was that I am somehow the smartest. And that was something that built my confidence as I was studying in college. When I graduated, that self perception was challenged because when I wanted to teach in college, uh, I told my dad, sabi ko pa, I want to teach in Ateneo. And yung sagot ng dad ko, ikaw? Talaga? Ano ituturo mo doon? Now, so ibig sabihin pang dating sa akin, wala akong confidence sa talino ko. Um, but I was not affected, fortunately, because I did well in academics already, and I knew I was already my belief in myself was nurtured by my statistics teacher. But in a way, these are the situations where other people's perceptions of us influence how we see ourselves, and how we see ourselves eventually either promote or discourage our potential from being achieved. So the social mirror is can be encouraging or can be discouraging depending on what is the perspective of other people towards you. So some questions for reflection. Currently, how do other people perceive you based on their words and behaviors? It can also be in the past. How has these perceptions limited you from pursuing your full potential at present or even in the past? So, for example, nung mag-resign na ako to do my business full time, sabi ng mga boss ko na magsa-start ka ng family, dapat secure yung job mo. So they saw me as an employee, not as an entrepreneur. So how about you? What are perceptions of other people that have shaped your behaviors? How have other people's words and behaviors shaped your behaviors? And how has this limited you pursuing your full potential? So I'll give you another 2 minutes of silence to reflect on these questions, and feel free to write notes or just reflect on these ideas. Okay, let's move on to the next concept. So the next concept is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. So ano ibig sabihin nun? We experience a self-fulfilling prophecy when our belief about ourselves influences our character, behavior, and performance. So our paradigms and perceptions of people influence the way we treat them and also how we behave. And what we believe about ourselves and others influences our self-perception, behavior, and performance. Our belief about ourselves can limit, discourage, and constrain, or it can affirm and encourage. So, anong example nito? So, when, so, I'll just make it a simple example. When I was not yet in BMH in first year college, I was already good in math, and some of my batchmates were asking me to tutor them or ano. And ang na-observe ko, hindi pa nga nagsisimula yung class, lumalabas sa bibig nila kaagad is, alam mo, hindi ako magaling sa math. So, hindi pa nagsisimula in class, their brain already resists the course. So, what happens? Habang tuturo yung teacher, duling sila. So, nothing comes in. And so, what is a self-fulfilling prophecy? Sabi niya, hindi siya magaling sa math. So, habang tuturo, hindi nila niintindi kasi ang iniisip nila, hindi nila maintindihan. So, ang ending, hindi nila naintindihan. On the other hand, ako naman, my mom is a college professor in mathematics. So, even in high school, I was already checking algebra papers to help her. And I understood the algebra and the advanced mathematics early on in life. So in my mind, I am good in math. So when I come into a math class, I think to myself that I am good to the point that my expectation in high school was 99 or 100 yung grade ko. So when I got into college, when I attend a math class, it's my favorite subject. In fact, even sometimes I question the teacher because sometimes they make a mistake. Why? Because in my mind, I am good in math, and therefore, when I go into that class, my perception and my self-fulfilling prophecy is that I will be good in math. Whereas other people, hindi pa nagsisimula yung klase, I'm bad in math, so their willingness to learn is already disabled or handicapped. Now, self-fulfilling prophecy. How about you? In today's situation, how do you see yourself? Self-fulfilling prophecy. How many times have you asked yourself if what kind of entrepreneur you see yourself as being? Do you see yourself as a good entrepreneur? Magaling sa business? Or isip mo, hindi ako magaling sa business? Isip mo ba magaling ka sa pagbebenta? Or isip mo hindi ka magaling sa pagbenta? Hindi ka pa nagsisimula, sinasabi mo na. So ano nangyayari? Whatever you believe becomes reality. Your reality. That is what self-fulfilling prophecy is all about. Our self-perception becomes our behavior. Hindi ako magaling magsalita sa harap, takot ako sa public speaking. Hindi ka pa ina-assign, takot ka na. Nung ina-assign ka, wala na talaga. So, ano nangyari? Tiklop talaga sa harap. Kasi iniisip, hindi magaling. So, it can limit, discourage, and constrain, or it can affirm and encourage. Depends on what prophecy do you give yourself. So, we'll have 2 minutes of silence again for you guys to reflect on what kind of prophecy do you have for yourself as an entrepreneur. Do you prophesize yourself as being good in leading other people or bad in leading other people? And how has that created the results and the behaviors around you? So 2 minutes of reflection, please. Okay. So this evening, we will start with those introduction of ideas and concepts that will be the foundation of our discussion for the next few weeks, for the next few webinars. And before we go, I'd like to share with you the concept of the maturity continuum. The maturity continuum is a continuum where we start being dependent, unable to create the results that we want, to independent, to being able and confidently create the results that we want. So dependence, parang employee or self-employed, not able yet to confidently start up your own business. Pag independent, para self-employed ka na you are able to earn 100, more or less 50 to 150,000 per month with your own efforts because you are a good and effective entrepreneur. But the passive income and building a larger enterprise requires interdependence, which is working with different independent people to create synergy and to make a big business happen. This is when you start earning 250,000 pesos per month and above. So, this will be the topics. There will be 7 habits that will allow you to mature from dependence to independence, and later on from independence to interdependence. And that will be the topic of our succeeding webinars. Because your maturity as an effective entrepreneur will determine the maturity of your income and your success. So, with that, we'd like to end and keep this session strictly at 1 hour so that we have enough energy to attend the next session next week and continue with our day. We'd like to thank everyone for coming to this second telecast, and we apologize if you were not able to attend the first session. The next week, we have already 100 slots, but we are seeing that in the next 3 months, this 100 slots will also be full. So make sure that you are able to come to the meeting early. Now, as a uh, feedback system to make sure that our succeeding webinars are more effective and impactful, we'd like to request you guys to send feedback or comments to the chat page before we log off tonight. All right. So with that, I'll shut off my mic and wish everyone a good night. And before you log off, kindly share with us some comments and feedback. All right. So good night and keep in touch.